Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to talk about different sites from the North Pole. We call that third pole. It's Tibetan Plateau and the surroundings. I'm from Institute of Tibetan Plateau Research, Chinese Academic Sciences. And we have next program called Third Pole Environment, simply called TPE. Actually, we have a long history to present our progress of these studies since the initiation of the Arctic Assembly, because that's started from the first visit of our former president, Mr. Grimson. He was a president at that time. He visited my institute. That was 2010. And he thought that there is a clean linkage between the North Pole and the Third Pole environmentally. So that's why we have the tradition to present our progress continuously through the different Arctic assemblies. So this time, I just very brief introduction about the Third Pole. It's cover about 5 million square kilometers. It's the youngest, highest, and largest plateau on the Earth. And the environment is very similar to that in the North Pole and South Pole. And it changed and affect more than 2 billion people. That difference between the North Pole and the Third Pole, the South Pole. Of course, the Tibetan Plateau and the Third Pole is also called Asian Watchtowers. It's a home of numerous glaciers, and the Cape Watchtower, which is characteristics of the slow ice. It's also very similar to the North Pole and the Third Pole, the South Pole. And if you talk about locations, it's in the mid-latitude, and you have also very similar process. We call that deep white because they are all covered by snow and ice. And it's also very similar to the North Pole because with the global warming, its warming rate is very similar to North Pole region. It's about twice as large as global average. From 1960 to 2012, temperature hikes on the Tibetan Plateau, it's about 0.3 to 0.4 degrees C per decade. If it's for other regions, it's around 0.17 something per decade. And if you have projects for the future, it's about 4 degrees C something. Do you think about the Paris Agreement? It's targeted about 2 degrees C something. And so that's an enormous increase in the future, in this century. And also, this warming process is causing enormous ice melting. It was in the southeastern Third Pole. The ice thickness thinning each year is more than 1 meter. Of course, it decreases to the interior. And actually, some part in the western part, northwest part, some glaciers has a positive mass balance. But as a whole, you see the melting on this region is enormous. Here's a picture took in 1933. You see the enormous volume and large area, but in 2006, it totally changed. With this retreating process, there's new disasters, which never happened before, or never found maybe before. 2016, there are 2 ice collapses. Some people call that ice avalanches. Anyway, the glaciers suddenly detached from its source and flying in the air about 100 kilometers per hour, and suddenly covered the whole village or the downstreams. The 1 kilometer, square kilometer glaciers then splashed about 10 square kilometers. So that kind of process damaged the pastures and the bird cattle and the local people. So local government was trying to rescue the victims, but there was no hope because you see how little has humankind before the giant natural disasters. And last year, there's again another ice collapse, which dammed the Yao River, which is the upper reaches of the Plateau. And this kind of process actually damaged the bridge, the local village, and the roads. And the Chinese government spent a lot of effort to try to survive all the local people from that kind of process. And also with the maintenance ice, you have the lakes expansion. And that kind of process devastating the pastures where local people usually stay. And that kind of process now it's forced 40 to something thousand local people to move from their original home. And that's kind of climatic refugees. And also with the warming, there are more glacial lake outburst floods. You see from this curve, from 1930s to this century, it's increasing frequencies and also magnitudes. So this region is now we have an environment disasters such as flood, drought, glacial lake outburst, ice avalanches that take more and more actually frequently, increasing uncertainties in this region. So that's why we have this third pole environment program, because we have some scientists from China, from the US, from Germany, working in this region since the early 1980s. And in this century, we think we should have some kind of big program to organize scientists from different disciplines to working together to deal with such kind of problems. So this is called the Third Pole Program, and actually in 2011, this progress has been endorsed by UNESCO Scope, UNEP, as a flagship program. And since then, we have workshops from different places. First was in Beijing, second in Kathmandu, third one is Iceland, with the promotion of former President Gripson. And then fourth was in India, fifth was in Germany, sixth was in US. And we have a kind of a big assembly in 2017 in Kunming, China, and last year was in Sweden. And very soon in November, we will have another workshop in Germany, Frankfurt. So with this progress, we have actually a very productive achievement in environment change scientifically. So there's a kind of evaluation company called Thomson Reuters. They indicate that kind of progress of studies as leading frontiers of earth science. And also a lot of reports by Science, Nature, and about progress at different stages. With the progress of this TPE program, and we think that we found that this kind of process actually is not only isolated to the third pole region itself. Its impact is regional or even global. So that's why, starting from 2015, we expanding the TPE program to PAN-TPE program to the surrounding regions. So the scientific focus of this program is improve our knowledge to reduce uncertainty in predicting environment change. And the final target is we have more accurate projection of different scenarios of westerly monsoon interaction and the impact and feedback behavior of this region. And also we have focus for the society. So to point out boundaries for the more vulnerable environment with the largest and most intensive industrialization on the earth, because you think about India and China, just these two countries. And we also need to have kind of knowledge about the environment capacity, policy leading to its protection and utilization and global warming and anthropogenic impact. With the progress of this kind of studies, actually, they are more interesting not only from scientists, but also from policymakers. So that's why starting from 2 years ago, so the different policymakers from different countries like China, Nepal, Pakistan, they said, oh, something you have to do to have a comprehensive assessment about the environment change in this region. So we have this new program called STAPE. That's called the Second Tibetan Plateau Scientific Expedition and Research. Because in the 1970s, scientists spent about 20 years to know more details about the environment change in this region. And after about 50 years with the global warming, we want to know what is the change and the consequences. So with all these programs, we spend the effort to have a comprehensive space or ground observation networks on vertical, horizontal transects over the third pole region to see the different components change in this region. And also we have different action groups on observation model integration in Cryosphere and water cycle with some kind of technology innovation. And we try to cooperate with different with scientists from different parts of the world. And for the third pole environment, we have now different centers like in Kathmandu, in Sweden, in US. And very soon we will have another one in Germany. And also for the surrounding regions like Central Asia, Kathmandu, Myanmar, we will have scientists working together. And also we have a linkage with different scientists worldwide, like WMO, like Arctic-circle. So these are the processes we are working with different scientists. Because as I told you, these are Asian water towers, so we have more urgent scientific questions to answer. Because of time limit, I don't go through all the details about questions. But we have different events, including the Geneva meeting from WMO. It's called High Mountain Summit. And we have Germany TPE workshop in November and also AGU meeting in December. And we hope that all these activities can involve more scientists worldwide. Thank you.